All right, straight down to business today. Okay. Now, something that I've wondered about. In fact, I'll just summarize what we're going to do first. Okay, we're going to talk about the map of consciousness and science, and why I don't necessarily completely trust science based on the map of consciousness. And then we're going to cover Ho'oponopono, which is something I've just returned to kind of last night, really. I just reminded myself of it last night because I've got to a stage with Maisie and certain things where it's just like, I don't know. And there's a lot of other things which are just, complicated. And Ho'oponopono is easy. It's like the most simple thing. So I'm all about simple. I'm all about effective. And I don't know is actually really, really powerful state of mind to be in. Okay, it actually opens up opportunities rather than closes them off. Okay? Saying I don't know and then doing nothing is a different matter to saying I don't know, but there must be an answer. So two different things. You need to be kind of in the second one. Okay, I will probably say a little bit more on that, but probably not much more on that in a short while. So I'm going to start off with science and the scientific process. So in science, this is my understanding of it anyway. Someone comes up with an idea, and then they come up with a way to test that idea, and they'll get a set of results. And then what happens is it goes into some kind of review process. Okay, so one group of people at one institution get a set of results. Then this review process kind of happens and go, yeah, okay, yeah, we can, look at that and go, yeah, do I agree? Do I not agree? Okay, right, whatever. Let's run the test again somewhere else. We're going to do it as precisely as we can, as with the same parameters, the same kinds of test subjects. So let's say it's people. We're going to get the rough kind of, the median age is all going to be the same. It's going to be roughly mixed 50-50 male and female, etc., etc. Okay, we'll get as much of the detail the same as we possibly can. We'll run this experiment as closely as we possibly can to the first time, and they get a completely different set of results. Now, that doesn't happen every time, obviously, otherwise nothing would ever change, nothing would ever happen, but it certainly happens sometimes. With knowledge of the map of consciousness, I think I have an explanation of why that can happen where perhaps it shouldn't. Okay, so sometimes maybe the first experiment was good, someone's come along and gone second or third time round and gone, hang on a minute, we've got completely different results to what you've got. Either you've fudged the results, something's gone wrong with your experiment, or we're right, you're wrong. So what does the map of consciousness look like? Okay, let's just have a little reminder. Let's pull that up. I don't want whiteboards. I want to share screen somehow. There we go. And I want to pick a tab, map of consciousness, this one. So just a quick Google search, map of consciousness, David Hawkins, we picked the right picture. Okay, so I don't know if you can see me as well as seeing the map of consciousness. Let's say group one got a result that was very, very positive. Okay, very positive for mankind, a really hard to treat disease, and they found a compound, they found even a pharmaceutical, a drug that they've developed. Okay, and it looks really, 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 really promising. Okay, it's got really great outcomes and very few side effects. Perhaps the group of scientists that did that were, as a collective, relatively high on the levels of consciousness. Okay, they were kind of 300 plus as a group. Now, this second group come along, either trying to prove it or deny this discovery. As a overall collective, might have a overall kind of level of consciousness below 200. Okay, 150, around the anger, the desire, the fear kind of levels. And because of their influence, their consciousness influence on the experiment, they kind of ruin it. Now, that could go either way, really. It could be that we have this chemical, this pharmaceutical that's developed that's actually really dangerous, really poisonous, and the level of consciousness is low, but it seems to work. Okay? It seems to work. So it kind of could go either way. But actually, the negative outweigh the positive in that scenario. There was another thing I was going to look up that's just come to me. Let's go stop sharing and welcome me back onto the main screen. Okay, and I'm just going to disappear onto another Google search. Robot chicken experiment. Robot chicken experiment with chicks. Now, again, I've talked about this with you guys before. Let's pull up share screen again. So I think from a very brief overlook of what I saw on the images on another page there was this experiment was done in the 80s. Okay, a robot chicken was built. Okay, this robot chicken was basically it wasn't a remote control car, but it was like a little vehicle that kind of chicken sized, chicken shaped, and it moved around a rectangular cage. They put real life baby chicks in a cage right next door to this robot chicken. Okay, so initially the baby chicks weren't there. Okay, this robot chicken went on a random tour around its cage, and it just kept going in random directions. Okay, and it covered the whole area of that enclosure was covered by this robot chicken. Okay, in a random pattern, in a completely random way. They then put baby chicks in an enclosure right next to this robot chicken, separated by wire or whatever. And what they saw was that this robot chicken that should be going in random patterns actually steered closer to the chicks on average. Okay, let me just pull up the picture so you can kind of pictorially see what I'm talking about. Share, yeah, there we go. So let's have a look at, there's two here. I mean, this one is probably the primary one that we want to look at. So picture A is what I've just described. The robot chicken is, there's no chicks in the cage. It just goes on a random journey around its enclosure. They put chicks in the cage in B, and after a period of time, the robot chicken tended to stay in the area that was nearest to the chicks. Okay, so the consciousness of the chicks influenced the robot. And other experiments like this have been done with random number generators. So a random number generator generates essentially ones and zeros in this case, and they got people in and said, right, think about ones. Think about ones. And this random number generator was generating however many hundreds of thousands of ones and zeros in a completely random pattern, 50-50, without any human influence. Okay? And it was completely just doing that on its own. And then they stick a human in there for a number of minutes, however long it was, and said, hey, look, generate more ones. And this random number generator would swing, probably not even by 1%, towards more ones. Okay, like 0.5%, maybe 1%. Round about that or so. Okay. But in terms of statistical probability, the chances of that happening were millions to one. So a human comes in with the intention of changing something, or in the other case, a chicken, a baby chick, had the intention of having its mother's love, which it saw as the robot, and it influenced the robot. So consciousness can influence machines. Okay, so our consciousness, our thoughts can influence the world around us. Okay, this is why I kind of am a bit dubious about science sometimes, because the consciousness of a scientist will influence the outcome of his machines or her machines or their machines, and will either skew the data positively or skew the data negatively, depending on what their thoughts and beliefs are, okay, depending on their levels of consciousness. So levels of consciousness kind of just goes, science, we kind of can't fully trust it because we don't know the intentions, the thoughts, the beliefs of the people who are running the experiment. Okay, we hope that the intentions, thoughts, and beliefs of the people running the experiment are pure. Okay, but what we also know about the levels of consciousness is that very, very few people are kind of very highly positive, and the vast majority of the world is below that red line of courage. Okay, from in reading between the lines in the David Hawkins books would suggest that the majority of scientists are above that red line because they're working in levels of logic and reason, which is very, very high in the levels of consciousness. However, not all of them are, and it does fluctuate. So someone who was very high earlier on in life, let's say in their 20s, before they've become jaded by politics and, and money and family and all these other things that might be influencing them, might be very high in terms of reason and the levels of consciousness. But due to life circumstances and things happen, they might have dropped down significantly, perhaps, to below 200. It happens. It happens. And vice versa. Some people are very low for a significant portion of their life, only to like the weights drop off and the bubble bursts through the surface of the ocean and they become very, very high in levels of enlightenment. It's impossible to, maybe not impossible, but very hard to predict what will happen and when as to levels of consciousness. So this is why I don't put full faith in science, because it depends. It depends on all these things. Okay, and even then, scientists are looking at this stuff and going, particularly when it comes to like health science. There's one doctor I follow who's like, well, all of these experiments are done in a lab. Okay, and a lab is indoors. It's not real life. Real life involves sunlight. Real life involves going outdoors. Real life involves squishy stuff like thoughts and emotions. Although he doesn't go into that, but he's more about light. Okay, and a lot of the stuff I learn about light, I learned from him and a few other people who talk about similar things. Where's I going? So yeah, stuff that's done in a laboratory is not as real as they can try and make it. It's still not real. It's still not realistic, I should say. This is why kind of human studies are the gold standard, because you don't put humans in a study for 6 months and just keep them inside it like we do with rats and stuff and go, right, okay, 6 months humans, you're going to be living here under artificial lighting, and we're going to watch and monitor everything that you do. They can't do that because humans have got families, friends, work, etc., etc. So they have to go, right, off you go. We're still going to run this experiment on you. You have to come back every week or every couple of weeks and we'll do this. And that's why pills and medications and things will work for some people and it won't work for others because of their habits, okay, and what they do and what they eat and what they think. So science is is much more squishy than a scientist would have you believe. It's not hard fact. It's squishy. It's squishy, which brings me on to Ho'oponopono. And I'm just going to describe some life situation for me at the moment. Maisie has been having some, I suppose, more difficulties than usual at the moment. I'm not going to go into massive detail because I might share this online. But yeah, more difficulties than usual for us, and in herself. I can tell that she's having a hard time with things, and she struggles to describe it. And every time I try and talk about it, she feels like I'm attacking her or shouting at her, and I feel like I'm just having a conversation. I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to help her out. But she'll shut down and she'll cry and she'll scream at me to go away. So I kind of last night, I mean, we didn't have a difficult evening, but she'd had a difficult day. I just kind of went, I don't know anymore. I have no idea what to do. And it was kind of freeing. It's kind of freeing to go, right. And I know you guys in here are kind of looking at me and going, Pete, teach us the things you know. And I've just told you, a lot of the stuff I know is like, well, all the stuff I've learned from science and various other things, even the herbology and the bits and bobs that I've learned from there. As I've said hundreds of times, I'm not an expert in all of that. And if you want more on that kind of stuff, look at Barbara O'Neill. And people like Barbara O'Neill. There are plenty out there, and there's lots of free videos that you can go and learn plenty of good stuff on about kind of natural home remedies for burns, skin conditions, aches and pains, diseases, and all kinds of things. There's so much stuff out there. So many. Play a part and how that interacts with our brain and which part of the brain that might be affecting. Relating to the body parts. So if it's our guts, it's going to be in the cerebellum, and if it's depending on where in the guts, it's going to have got a certain location cerebellum. If it's our skin or muscle tissue or something like that, it's to do with not feeling good enough. And skeleton, so all kind of skeleton and skin issues and muscles and tendons. I'm not good enough. And then depending on where that shows up in your body, it depends on what kind of situation it relates to. What else is there with I mean, again, GMN is amazing, but incredible complication to all of this stuff. And you've then got to fathom it all out. Okay. And then it's like, well, what do I do with that information once I've kind of worked out, oh, it was probably my illness started about then, which was roughly when this happened. And what am I actually supposed to do about it now? Okay. Because I'm still feeling not great. It's still affecting my day-to-day life. Even though I've worked out probably what it was, when it was, this emotional event that happened in my life that was unexpected, or kind of unexpected, but stressful nonetheless. Even though I've worked all that out, how do I solve it? Well, the solving is in the letting go. The solving is in the letting go. And again, letting go can be an incredibly complicated process, which brings me to Ho'oponopono, which is the most simple process that you could ever choose to have. Okay, it is 4 phrases. 4 phrases. I love you, thank you, forgive me, I'm sorry. And there is a 5th phrase, if you choose to use that as well, is I forgive myself. We can also use single words. Words like peace. Okay? Words like freedom, words like abundance, words like joy, words like bliss. Okay? And we can sit and just repeat and ponder on these words and short phrases. Okay? And that will enhance our recognition of those things that are either already exist in our life, or the things that pass us by that we don't recognize when they're coming, because our perception at this point in time, pre doing this kind of process, is still skewed towards the negative. Like, for example, okay, skewed towards the negative. Oh, there's Dave. He's always a prick. Okay, Dave is a prick. Okay, and when I communicate with Dave, in the back of my mind, Dave's a prick, Dave's a prick, Dave's a prick, Dave's a prick, Dave's a prick. Okay, and even if he's being really nice to me, I'm going to take it with a huge grain of salt, because in the back of my mind, Dave's a prick. But if I start changing my thoughts to peaceful ones, I love you, thank you, forgive me, and you're not necessarily thinking about Dave in this example, you're just tuning your mind to see those things, you might just start hearing Dave in a different way. You might hear his words differently. Okay, so maybe my daughter is looking at me and going, there's a big scary man who does sometimes shout at me. Yes, I absolutely do. Okay, I am not going to deny that I lose my cool with her far too often. Okay, and I'm trying my best not to. Okay, so she looks at me, she hears me speak and go, he's angry, because I've been angry with her in the past. Okay, and I have a deep voice, which can seem angry. And I talk fast as well, quite often, which again can come across, I suppose, as anger or telling off or whatever. So Ho'oponopono, really simple, really, really simple. You just need to repeat. Okay? It is maintaining focus. It's a mantra. Okay? It could be Om, could be any other kind of mantra, but because it's really short, mantras can get long, affirmations can get long and complicated. You start then worrying about, am I using the right words? Am I doing the right thing? Am I saying, have I giving it enough belief, enough expression? With Ho'oponopono, with these phrases, you don't need to worry about that. Okay? Your body will tune itself to what it needs to tune to, what you're choosing to tune to. Okay? If you're tuning to peace, you will tune to peace. It's like selecting a radio station on your car radio. Okay, the old style with a dial. Okay, if I want to find Radio 1, I will find Radio 1. I might have to tune all the way up, all the way down. I might be going through a dead spot as I'm driving through the countryside, but if I scroll long enough, I will find it. Okay, so if I set my intention for long enough, consistently enough, to peace and love and kindness, I will find those things. Okay, and then my body will express those things. Okay, in like an moving away from illness, moving away from disease, moving away from pain, potentially even moving away from thoughts and beliefs that certain foods are bad for me, certain medicines are bad for me, because medicine may be good for you if you have a belief that you generate. Okay, and we've all got this belief because we all grew up going to the doctors, getting medicine, feeling better. Okay, we've all got that belief because practically every one of us did that because our parents, when we were sick, earache, throat infection, chest, cough, whatever, okay, not grazed knee, but broken leg, whatever it was, okay, broken finger, you go to the doctor gives you medication or treatment, you feel better. Okay, we all have the belief doctors make us better, medication makes us better. Okay, and it is very hard to break that belief. And I would also question, is it worth breaking that belief? Hey, probably the easier belief to break is medication has side effects. Okay, or medication has a negative side effects. Okay, because the amount of times I've taken medication in my life and had negative side effects is zero, as far as I know. One, I took diclofenac after I had my tonsils removed and my tongue swelled up. But that was only after about 3 days of taking diclofenac. Okay. So I stopped taking it and I felt better. Anyway, all right. So I'm just gonna stop on that bit there. Okay, and please digest all of that stuff, and I'm going to dive into treatment side. Cool. Cheerio.